Hello. I thought I would do a video about why I'm not very good at telling people things. This is, well, it's not a problem I have, but it's a problem that people have with me. That I don't tell them very important information about things that are going to happen or stuff. So, like, part of it is that I tend to understate things. Because I'm literal, everyone's going on about this, but it's quite significant that I'm very literal. So when I say something, I mean it exactly that way. So I don't really tend to exaggerate. But maybe other people do, I don't know, because when I say something, then it feels like people don't actually believe. Not people. I'm talking about like neurotypicals, sorry. So they sort of like don't take it literally. Or just, what's it called? Wave off the comment or something. So it's difficult for me to be assertive. Because even if I'm saying something clearly, which to me, if I'm saying it, I mean it. But to someone else, they might think, oh, people just say things. It's not really a big deal. People just say stuff. Stuff comes out of people's mouths. It's not really, doesn't really tend to be like that with me. Like if I say something, then I'm very serious about it, and I mean it. Right, so where was I? Telling people things, being literal. Right, so, yeah, can't remember that point, but I also don't have like an internal monologue, I think it's called, so I can't hear myself thinking. But I do have thoughts somewhere, but it's all like a lot deeper down than that, and there's loads of it. It's like very, very complicated. Like, I think it's something to do with the brain development, with autistics and dyspraxics when they're like below the age of 2, and like all these like excuse me, what's it called, like the wiring in the brain, there's like loads and loads and loads of connections. And then for people who aren't autistic and dyspraxic, by the way, I'm not a scientist, I've never studied this, so this might not be correct, quite a lot of the connections fall away because they're not necessary to be able to function in an efficient way. But with us lot, some of them just like, there's too many connections, they just stay there. So we've still got all this stuff going on, and that's why we tend to go off on so many tangents all the time, and it's hard for us we can focus on one thing only. Right, so focusing on this one thing, what is it? Oh my goodness. Right. Not telling people things. Okay, so this can be very major because for other people, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to hurt anybody. It's just the thing is, if I don't tell somebody something, it's because I don't even know yet. Like, okay, so one part of that is I don't know what's going to happen, only Allah knows what's going to happen. So to me, it's already obvious that like nothing's guaranteed. So I could say something, but then it might not happen. I mean, I could say like, oh, such a buddy's going to the zoo on Saturday, but they might not. There's so many things that might happen that they might not go to the zoo. So that's one part of it, that like the future's not fixed. Then I don't know things because I don't want to like get my hopes up and disappoint myself. That's another thing. But the main part of it is, excuse me, it's like I haven't processed it because my processing speed is very slow. It takes me a long time to work things out. And if something major's happening, then that could take me like literally years to work it out. So there's no way that I can actually think about all the implications of how other people feel about it. As in people that aren't directly impacted. So let's say I'll make up an example, like I want to move to London. Then I have probably spent years working this out and come to the decision. And it's a very internal process, unless I'm lucky enough to have had someone who I can talk about it with, and then it's a lot easier because I can't hear my thoughts, but if I say them out loud, then they can work, they can function. So usually it takes a long time to decide something, and then I'm really like confident about my decisions. So I'm a good decision maker because I've put so much thought and energy into like, and years usually, thinking about all these different things because I have to, because I can't think quickly. Then, okay, so I'm moving to London, but this is, like I said, it's either been an internal process that took an extremely long time, or it's not that many people really ask you, like, how are you, what's going on in your life, so it might be like one person that helped me work this out. and they're the only one that actually knows about it, because it's too complicated for me to actually be able to verbalise it to someone else and then deal with their reaction as well. So by the time it could be like, right, I'm going to move to London, then by that time all the groundwork is done and I basically just have to like find a flat and rent it. This isn't a real example, I've already said that, but I think I'm reminding myself, right? So this isn't a real example, but let's say I'm going to move to London, so all I've got to do is just do some research, find a suitable accommodation, and then, well, I'm not saying moving house is simple, but what I'm saying is that, like, to the outside it looks like I've just made this random spontaneous decision that I'm suddenly going to move to London, and then people, as in like people who are not really, they don't work the way that I do, think I'm spontaneous, but there's like worse words for that, because spontaneous is thought of as a good thing, isn't it? But I'm not spontaneous at all, really. I'm like very cautious. I'm very prudent and cautious, but then I would get labelled as like what was it? I mean, this is when it came back to people telling me that I'm bipolar, and I haven't got anything against people being bipolar, but I'm not bipolar. This is not the same thing whatsoever. Because I don't sort of like get carried away in the moment and think, I'm going to move to London. Do you see what I'm trying to say? It's like all this years of work has gone into it. But because I haven't been able to communicate that, and even to myself, I'm just sort of like working through it so slowly that even I don't necessarily know where I'm up to with it all. So, okay, so a recent example. Then people get angry and then they say that and then they judge me for being that way, but they didn't understand it's not that way. The thing they're seeing, that's not what happened. The thing that I actually experienced was different. And they're not the one moving house, so why have they got such a judgment against me, like the way that I've had to do that process of like working that out. A recent example is that my daughter, she's had we've had a couple of years of thinking about changing her school, like moving her to a different school, and there's like all sorts of ins and outs of it, and thoughts and research and deep conversations and all kinds of things. Now it's actually happening. It was actually a recommendation from the head teacher where she has been going that she should move to a different school, not because of her, but because of my circumstances, to make it easier for me as a disabled parent. She's recommended that we contact a specific school and say, and because it's usually full, when the application gets rejected, then she will support us through an appeals process to try and get a place anyway. Because I've inquired about this other school a few times in the past and it's always been full. Music's coming on. Hang on. Alexa, stop. Thursday night, I found out. Oh, that was about a week and a half ago. It's very quick, right? So then what's happened is, I made this very, very momentous decision that I'm going to apply for this nearby school, because there's lots of like pros and cons, aren't there, to things, and this was one of those decisions where it's not really that clear. Like, there's so many benefits that I would like her to have stayed actually where she was and not move her. And I always very, very highly prioritise my children's needs. So it was difficult to come to a decision where I had to sort of like put my needs on an equal par and say, actually, weighing up the pros and cons of this, it would be better if she goes to this other one. But I heard back from them on Thursday night, so that was within about a week and a half or so, or less. I think it was actually a week. It was so speedy. It was like a week and a bit. So it was already kind of like, I hadn't quite caught up with myself for the fact that I've made this decision, because normally I I'm so wholehearted about my decisions that I'm 100% in. Whereas with this one, like I just described, it was kind of like there were various people to consider, i.e. me and my daughter. And the needs for both matched better with making the decision to change the school. Then we got offered a place and told that she could start immediately, which is a good thing, but it's going to just majorly change my life. I can't like, my brain just can't get it. Like, this is really, really major. This is something like how autistic people have difficulty with change. It's not just like an adjustment, it's like a major, major thing. And on Friday morning, I had to tell her because it's going to happen so quick, straight away. And then she had to tell her best friend. And then the best friend's parent, they haven't spoken to me. And I fear they might be really upset that I've just done this. This is the kind of... by the way, she is dyspraxic, so let's give her some benefit of the doubt. She's a beautiful friend as well. I'm really scared that she is angry with me, because it's not very nice, is it, when someone's like, feels like you've done something wrong, and I don't want it to seem like I didn't care about maintaining the friendships with them. And I didn't just randomly move my daughter to school. But there's no way that I could sort of like talk through where I'm up to with it, because it's so much for me to manage already. Just like actually trying to remember to follow up what I'm doing for myself to like decide and organise this kind of very important life choice. So that's an intro on that one for you. Thank you.